We've got bloating, constipation, cramps, gas, inability to lose weight and or gain weight. We've got brain fog, elevated blood pressure, blood sugar, excessive cholesterol, a lot of funky issues going on, as well as skin issues, rashes, breaking out in hives, right? Dry skin, bad breath, body odor, hair loss. There's a lot of different issues or a lot of different symptoms that could be indicators of poor gut health, right? The majority of your immune system is in your gut. And what's interesting is when it comes to things like building muscle, losing weight, reversing chronic illness, all of that really starts in your gut. And when it comes to your gut, there's two things mainly that you want to do to improve your gut health and your digestive health, right? And I'm going to talk about gut health and digestive health separately because they're kind of separate, even though it's a package deal, right? So simply put, there's two things that you really need to do to optimize gut function. It is eliminate and get rid of waste, okay? To decongest your digestive tract, right? Empty your stomach, empty your intestines, empty your colon, and free up your gut lining, right? To free up the microvilli that line your intestines, right? So that you're better able to pull nutrients from your food. So there has to be a process of detoxification and elimination, restoring blood flow back to your gut. All right, so that's the thing that's gotta happen. And then secondly, there's the things that you put in to build your gut microbiome, right? So think about your gut microbiome as a civilization, right? There's a whole world, a whole society that lives inside your gut. It's populated by bacteria, right? Your gut flora, and all of this makes up your gut microbiome. And there's a variety of different populations and cultures and responsibilities and jobs that all of these bacteria engage in. You've got bacteria that act as like telecommunications, right? The transportation of messaging, right? This implies hormonal balance. Your hormonal balance is largely dictated by the communication sector of your gut microbiome. You've got transportation, waste management and waste removal. You've got engineering, right? You've got manufacturing, right? You've got all types of production. So your bacteria, they create and build things. They synthesize things like folate and B12, right? Methylcobalamin, and various different short chain fatty acids, right? Vitamin K2, these things called postbiotics, right? They're necessary in the formation of new white blood cells, right? So that you can have an immune system that's on point, right? This is like the security sector of your gut microbiome, right? Like your gut has like a built-in Department of National Security, right? So your gut has all of these different things. It's very complex. And this is also why variety in your diet is so important, right? And when it comes to variety, there's typically going to be at any given time anywhere from 10 to 20 different types of things that are going to be in your diet. The sweet spot is somewhere around 12 or 15, right? Could be upwards of 20, but it depends. And the reason why that's the case is because you have to have all of the colors in your diet, and colors are indicators of certain nutrients, right? So you have a spectrum that your food is in. This is why a plant-based diet is so beneficial, by the way. So you have like a frequency spectrum. And the frequency spectrum ranges from a deep violet, like a deep dark purple, and then it gets bluer and redder and more orange and yellow and then green and a really vibrant green and then a deep green and a dark green and then back into the violet, right? And it's this frequency loop, right? And all of your foods fall somewhere on that spectrum, that color chart of frequency. Color indicates frequency, right? It's the type of frequency that we can see. And you know, this is not a magical thinking thing. It's a scientific thing, right? Every color has a specific frequency value, right? Electromagnetic frequency value. We hear in numbers, we see in numbers, right? Colors are just numbers. They're these numerical values, right? Even if you're coding on a computer or something like that, each color has a particular SKU number, right, that you have to plug in order to get that number. It's very fascinating stuff. And each color represents certain things. So for example, deep violet colors, red, purple, and red indicate like immune health, improvements and protections of blood flow or blood quality, right? Something involving the health of your blood, right? So the red foods are really important for maintaining oxygenation, right? So like, for example, if you have like blood pressure issues or cardiovascular issues, strawberries, cherries, right? Those red bell peppers, beets, right? These types of things. They're all red foods. And they're extremely... Watermelon, that's another one, right? And all of these foods, the one thing they have in common is they all help to improve blood flow, blood pressure, cholesterol, all that type of stuff. Really important. Orange, yellow, right? These things, they resemble carotenoids that preserve pigmentation, right? You can tell that something is not healthy by its level of pigmentation. It loses its pigmentation, right? So for example, we don't eat anything that's unpigmented, like it's gray or something like that, right? This is even like when your hair turns gray or whatever the case is. This is a sign that it's losing its pigmentation and it's becoming weaker, right, as it becomes depigmented. This is why it's, you know, when you look pale or a loss of color, this implies that something's wrong, right? Your eyes, look at cataracts. They're like white, they're depigmented, right? Even people with really light colored eyes, the lighter colored your eyes are, the more at risk you are for losing your vision, right? So when your eyes have a deep pigmentation, you retain your vision for longer, right? So pigmentation is very important, and carotenoids maintain pigmentation. So when you think about yellows and your oranges and things, this resembles beta carotene, which protects your vital organ tissues, right? This helps to synthesize vitamin A that's necessary in order to maintain the health of your gut lining, your lungs, your heart, your cardiovascular system, your liver, all of your vital organs, right? The vitamin A is really important for that, right? So if you have like cardiovascular damage or damage to your organ tissues, oranges, grapefruit, right? Any of those citrus fruits, cantaloupe, papaya, right? Yellow, orange bell peppers, carrots, right? Sweet potato, butternut squash. All of that is where you get that beta carotene that is the substrate for vitamin A production and synthesis inside your body. And then you've got like your greens, your different varieties of green, and green signifies detoxification, cleansing, right? Your green foods are typically very rich sources of vitamin K1, which converts into vitamin K2 in your body. That vitamin K is really important for bolstering your immune system. If you have a low white blood cell count, you want to prioritize green and purple, right? Because purple also signifies a strong vitamin K1 content, and then green also, vitamin K1. So like, for example, kiwis, very, very rich source of vitamin K as well as vitamin C and vitamin E. Kiwi is like one of my top favorite foods. It's such a deep, rich source of vitamin E, vitamin K, and vitamin C, and all three of those collectively help to significantly boost immune function. Right? And all related to digestive health. All of this is extremely important. Your leafy green vegetables, especially your bitters, really important. Your herbs, your leafy green vegetables. The leafy green vegetables, not very calorically dense, but really, really rich sources of things that are extremely important to your gut, especially if you have really, really big compromised gut health issues. For example, Candida, SIBO, right? Your leafy greens are very important for this. Okay? Because that fiber helps to bind up these things and drag them through your digestive tract, right? These leafy greens, these bitters, right? They're antibacterial, antifungal, antiviral, very rich in vitamin K, iron, copper, right? All your trace minerals, chromium, and things like that. Really important, right? Because your DNA is held together by minerals, right? Minerals are like the scaffolding of your cells, so to speak, right? Or not really the scaffolding, more of the glue. The scaffolding is like your DNA, but your minerals are joined with amino acids and vitamins and are necessary to really hold things together, right? You cannot maintain your genetic structure or the structure of your DNA in your cells without those minerals. So the loss of those minerals, or the breakdown and the oxidation of those minerals, causes a deterioration of your genetic structures. And when that happens over a prolonged period of time, it's like water hitting the beach and just washing away your cellular integrity, right? Dragging it back out into the ocean, dismantling it, right? Eroding the beach. And that's how you end up with chronic illness, right? And a lot of gut health issues. So when you're dealing with improving your gut health, people's gut health issues largely come from congestion, slow gastric emptying, right? Gastric emptying, and this is a big part of why a raw diet is so beneficial. Gastric emptying is basically the rate at which your food moves through your digestive tract and is in the waste products and the breakdown that's left over is removed from your body. So when you eat, how long does that food sit in your stomach? How long does it take for that food to move through your digestive tract? How much residue does it leave behind? How effectively can your body clear it from your digestive tract? Right? Oily, greasy, fatty foods, they gum up your digestive tract, right? It's like sludge. It's kind of like why you don't pour like oil and things down the drain. You don't pour grease down your drain, right? Because imagine like you've got just oil and hair and whatever going down the drain, clogging it up. It's the same like that with your food, right? Fried foods, protein, fat, and all of this high calcium and metabolites. These things bind together and they get slathered up on your digestive tract and your intestinal walls, right? And this inhibits your intestine's ability to pull nutrients from your food, right? Or even maintain adequate levels of stomach acid, right? So you get this gunk built up throughout your digestive tract. So your nutrient absorption decreases, right? And not only does it gum up your intestinal lining, but also it reduces blood flow. Like people get like a plaque buildup and a reduction of blood flow to the intestines and the stomach lining and all of this. And it interferes with the muscular integrity of your stomach, your upper intestines, lower gut, and all of this, right? So the nervous system functioning of contraction, dilating, and constricting gets jammed up. And you keep eating and you just keep piling on top of that congestion. So you can keep eating and then the food comes out kind of whole, right? Some people, they can't really eat really fiber rich foods like brown rice or like wild rice would be an absolute nightmare for some people. You can eat corn and the corn, you eat it and it comes out whole. You know, you eat whole pumpkin seeds, the pumpkin seeds come out whole, right? Like completely undigested, right? And that's a result really of like a lack of stomach acid, poor blood flow to the intestines, excessive mucus buildup, and this type of thing, right? You can't really necessarily just eat your way out of that. You have to detox and cleanse and clear out waste. You have to decongest. You got to empty the stored glycogen from your liver. You got to break down and get rid of some of the fat that's been built up in your liver, right? You may have a lot of fat built up in your liver. And a lot of people, they like the skinny fat. So you got skinny arms and legs. You're not really necessarily obese, but you got like a lot of fat built up in your liver. You got a fupa along the lower gut, that kind of thing. And, you know, if all of your fat is concentrated around your stomach, that implies like poor gut health, right? And a fatty liver, right? Accumulated in your liver. Interestingly enough, like obesity is like a protection against that. So like your body makes you fat by storing more fat underneath your skin subcutaneously rather than just constantly parking it in your liver, right? Some people, a little less fortunate, right? So you don't build the fat all up around your body everywhere. It's just kind of concentrated around your midline, around your stomach and your torso area, right? And that's very dangerous. You end up having like really high visceral fat and liver fat and that type of thing. So what do? You got to have a simpler, easily digestible diet. And you got to kind of have to pick a route. So there's eating patterns that you can engage in. One eating pattern is like a fruitarian style diet. And there's two versions of this, right? Let's say you decide, hey, I want to do a juice cleanse. It's like, well, why does a juice cleanse work? Well, a juice cleanse works is because if your gut is too compromised to be able to deal with fiber, well, the juice, basically, you get all of the nutrients from the fruits and vegetables, but you remove the fiber. So this speeds up gastric emptying. You drink juice, it's not going to sit in your stomach and for a long period of time and feed bad bacteria and fungus and all of this type of stuff. It's just in and out. So it could be abundance of water, vitamin C, potassium, etc., right? All the micronutrients, simple sugars and whatnot just moving straight through. So therefore, you don't have food sitting on your stomach, feeding like a small intestinal bacterial overgrowth kind of deal, right? That's, it's not feeding SIBO, it's just in and out, right? So, you're drinking, let's say you're doing celery juice, you're juicing cucumber, apple, and grapefruit, you're juicing beets, that type of thing, and just drinking that throughout the day, right? You're drinking your juices. Cabbage, you're juicing cabbage, that type of thing, right? That's one way you could do that, right? And it works, it's effective. At some point in time, you would need to switch it up, but that's a good strategy. Another one is eating whole fruits, right? Now it depends, because the reason why you may want to go the juicing route is because when you eat the whole fruits, the fruits sit in your stomach for too long. Some people, that's the case, right? So they eat certain fruits and they get gassy and bloated. And it's a major red flag, right? So like, for example, some people, they eat bananas and the bananas hit their stomach and they get like a food baby and they get gassy and bloated or whatever. And it may be because there's a little too much starch in the bananas at one time. And what happens is it's staying in your stomach for a bit too long, and it could be feeding, fungal overgrowth like candida or something like that, or bad bacteria. Some people, this is the issue. So you may want to switch to something like juicing. And with juicing, you're not juicing bananas, you're not juicing avocados and things like that, which are things that have a lower rate of gastric emptying, right? But if you decide to eat whole fruits, you want to eat fruits like papaya, pineapple, kiwis, cherries, berries, right? Apples, like your more tangy, bitter apples, like green apples, that kind of thing, right? So you may want to have those kind of fruits with more of the astringent quality to them. Watermelon, that type of thing. So you want to stick to those kinds of fruits. Your blueberries, blackberries, strawberries, cherries. Some people, grapes are kind of hit and miss. It really depends how insulin resistant you are. It depends, right? Some people, like if you're really overweight, very insulin resistant, maybe the grapes will bother you a little bit. So you may want to do green grapes instead of red grapes, maybe, right? So it's not a cookie cutter approach for everybody. There is a degree of experimentation, right? Pineapple usually is always a hit. Papaya usually is always a hit, right? I don't think I've ever really had anybody who had issues with papaya and pineapple, right? Or kiwis. Those are green light, right? Cherries, green light. Berries, green light. People don't really have issues with berries. If you're having an issue with any of those foods, you're getting gassy from any of those, you may want to juice them instead and drink the juice, right? That's an option as well. Juicing in general, the reason why it works in particular though, what happened to my camera here? Can y'all still see me? Put a 1 in the chat if y'all can still see me. Because it shows my connection is janky a little bit right now. But I'm gonna keep going. That's all right. It'll pick back up hopefully, right? But so you may want to do a mix of eating whole foods and juicing. You may want to start off juicing and then graduate to more whole foods. But the juicing in particular, the main reason why it works is because it reduces the amount of time for gastric emptying. Gastric emptying happens quicker with juicing. That's the biggest seller, right? So a raw fruit-based diet. And then you combine your leafy green vegetables. Now your leafy green vegetables are like real safe, especially like your tender leafy greens. When you start to get into things like cabbage, broccoli, cauliflower, things like that, you might run into some issues with that, right? Because of the high sulfur and protein content. So the tender stuff is a little better. So your romaine, your red butter lettuce, your Swiss chard, your arugula, watercress, kale, things like that. To make it easier for those foods too, you get those tender leafy greens and then you can chop them, right? So rather than putting them in your food whole, you can chop them and you can do like a thin slicing, and then you can also massage them. And the reason for that is breaking up the cell wall. So the more you break up the cell wall, the easier it is for your intestines to pull nutrients from those leafy green vegetables. Now you can juice greens too, you just don't get much juice from them. So if you put like a ton of greens into the juice and you're like, man, where's it into the juicer? And you're like, man, where's all the juice? I feel like I would get a lot more juice out of this. Vegetables don't really work like that. It's not a fruit. It's not like, just a ton of water. Like it doesn't really work like that. It's not an energy rich food, right? So that's something to take note of, right? So you could run them through the juicer with the fruits and things like that. And typically what I recommend that's like the most medicinal thing is you do your fruits and your greens at a 2-to-1 ratio, or you do your bitters and your sweets at a 2-to-1 ratio. So for every one sweet thing you implement in the juice, you do 2 bitter things, right? And your bitters are usually like your leafy green vegetables or like cucumber or something like that, right? Cucumber juice is always a hit, right? That's like one of the best things that you can do is cucumber juice. And I mean, you can do like 16 ounces of cucumber and like a couple Granny Smith apples. That's a hit. Or 16 ounces of cucumber and like 1 grapefruit, right? And that grapefruit can be, it depends on the size of the grapefruit, but anywhere in between 9 and 12 ounces or even 16 ounces, depends on the size of the grapefruit, right? Grapefruit is a really big deal because it's sweet, but it's also like has more of a bitter taste. It's not as sweet. So it tends to work better with gut health issues, especially the detoxification. Grapefruit is a big detox fruit. So that's one approach. So you can do all juice, or you can do a 50-50 split. Some things you eat whole foods, some things you eat raw, whatever the case, some things you juice, or whatever the case is, right? And if you're really insulin resistant, one thing you could do also is you can mix the leafy greens and fruits. You can kind of combine them, right? So you can make like a big fruit salad. So you can do some cucumbers, a variety of different leafy greens. You can implement some berries. You can do, right, and just mix them in and get like a big voluminous salad, right? So like a good base for the salad would be anywhere between like 4 and 7 ounces of leafy greens, right? And then you can add like cucumbers and bell peppers or whatever kind of peppers. You can add some grapes. You can add berries to them. You can add kiwi slices. You can add tangerine slices. You can also run, like, for example, you can do pineapple. You can even add lime juice over it, things like that. It's like a real kick in the mouth making the salad like that, right? Add some sea salt to it as well on top. So you can make it taste really good and do that. So that's one approach. And basically, not only does that work to improve gastric emptying and detox and clear out your gut, because all that roughage and whatnot and all those antioxidants, all those colors and everything like that, it all just moves through your digestive tract and just cleans and clears out, right? It's kind of like cleaning a greasy countertop with like Pine Sol, right? It goes from having like a greasy residue surface to kind of just like you just really dry it out. It's like squeaky clean. And when you do that, and when you eat foods like that in your gut, they restore blood flow back to your intestines, right? And it happens gradually over time. Okay. Then there's things that are also really beneficial, like fermented foods. And fermented foods are definitely included in a raw diet, especially if you have like gut health issues with like fungus or bacteria or something like that. Because viral overgrowth, bacterial overgrowth, fungal overgrowth, it's a result of a compromised gut microbiome. Usually, people who have these problems have a history of antibiotics. Okay, antibiotics will wreck your gut. I always tell people, do your very, very absolute best to avoid antibiotics. All right? It's like chemo for your gut. It's devastating. If you take the antibiotics, it wipes out the good and bad bacteria. But that bad bacteria can come back with a vengeance. And if that bad bacteria comes back quicker than your good bacteria, it's going to be a lot harder to get rid of it. Because nature can't stand a vacuum. That empty space will be filled either by good bacteria or bad bacteria. It's a zero-sum game. That spot will be occupied. It just depends on what's going to fill that spot, right? So for me personally, I'm a really big fan of like coconut yogurt. So, coconut yogurt, and then you do like a variety of like berries in the coconut yogurt. Coconut yogurt is a really good source of probiotics. Right, so probiotics is another term for beneficial gut bacteria, right? Gut flora, to build up your gut microbiome. And when you add like blueberries and you add things like chia seeds or hemp seeds, this helps to increase the survival rate of the good bacteria that's in the food. Right? If you just put the good bacteria in just on its own and it's not accompanied by anything, it doesn't survive your stomach. It doesn't survive your stomach, right? But when you include like the extra antioxidants, the prebiotic fiber, that type of thing, well, that increases the survival rates, right? They're not all going to make it, but you just need to build up, right? So you just need to get some, keep building the amount of beneficial gut bacteria. And as you increase the amount of beneficial gut bacteria in your lower gut, that translates into better gut microbiome balance in your upper gut, right? So they kind of govern from below. But the best thing that you can do to clear out your upper gut is increase gastric emptying and to flush out and make sure that there's nothing sitting in your stomach and your upper gut. There is also other things. So, for example, sauerkraut. So, like a cup of sauerkraut a day, juice and all. That's really powerful to helping to heal and improve your gut health as well. You can mix it into a salad, or you can just put it in a cup like me. I'll just put it in a cup and just eat it with like a fork and then just drink the juice down, right? With the sauerkraut, though, you got to make sure that you're getting it from the refrigerated aisle, right? Because that's the one that has the live active cultures. And so with that, a cup a day, just an 8-ounce mug like this, right? Like a mug like this. And you just fill that up and you can just eat it, right? Kimchi. Kimchi is another one. Sauerkraut is basically fermented cabbage. Kimchi is like fermented horseradish, fermented cabbage. It's like a variety of different fermented vegetables, right? And it's like it's a strong taste. It's good though. But the fermentation just makes it a lot more of a kick in the mouth, right? So just be warned about that. But it is a big delicacy, especially with my Korean folks, right? And then there's pickles, right? Fermented cucumber, right? So you get your pickles, and you can have that too. And you can kind of rotate these. And these are good to have like in the afternoon, late afternoon, early evening, that kind of thing, right? You can mix them in salads or foods or whatever the case is, or just eat them straight up. Very powerful probiotic foods. Then you have miso. So for example, when it comes to like miso, right? You got miso paste. And what you can do is you can actually boil some water, right? And then you add the water to a bowl. And then you take the miso paste, like a tablespoon of it or so. You wait until the water cools off a little bit. Like you want to wait till it's not at a boiling temperature. And then you add the miso paste and stir it around and have the miso paste dissolve. And then congratulations, you got miso soup, right? Miso is also another good bacteria food, right? Really phenomenal stuff. What you can do to build on that, because miso soup is actually one of my top favorites as well. So what you can do is you do that boiling water. You can add some seasonings to it. Like you can add some nutritional yeast to it, some sea salt. You can add a little cayenne pepper or black pepper or white pepper, which are also really good for your gut. And then you can do like a bok choy, which is like a Chinese cabbage. So you do some chopped bok choy, 4 ounces, 5, 6 ounces, whatever the case is. I think 4 ounces is fine. 5 ounces, depends on how much of a serving you want to have. And you basically, you don't want to boil the vegetables. You don't want to do that. You want to boil the water, and then you add in the vegetables. You take the heat off of it, let it cool down a little bit, and then let the vegetables kind of cook down and soften up a little bit in the heat of the water that was boiling. And then you add your seasonings and things like that, and then kind of stir it around, let it cook down. And you can do sliced leeks. Right? So you can add sliced leeks to that as well. Thin sliced leeks. It's like a more mild onion. Right? Really good taste. I'm a big fan of it. When I make miso soup, I put leeks and bok choy in it. That's my thing. Leeks and bok choy. So then after that, you put that in. You stir that around. Let it cook down a little bit under the heat. And then you add the miso paste. And you stir that in and let it dissolve. And then bam, you have a leafy, green, antioxidant-rich, mineral-dense probiotic soup. And that's great to have as like your last meal of your day, like dinner or something like that, right? Phenomenal stuff. And that's a really big gut-building food. It's a good source of protein as well. It's a good source of prebiotic fiber, good source of probiotics, full mineral profile and everything like that. Absolutely amazing. And in addition to that, you can also add like a sea vegetable like nori, right? And you get even more of those trace minerals and whatnot from that as well. So that can be healing, antioxidants, full mineral profile, vitamins, amino acids, all that good stuff. And the soup is soothing to your gut, and it's easy for your gut to digest. And if you do it that way in that order, you're not cooking the crap out of the vegetables to the point where you done kill off and destroy all the nutrients within them. Right? The next strategy that I want to touch on is going to be fasting. Fasting is a great gut reset. Okay? So let's say you're terrified of eating fruit. You eat fruit, and then for whatever reason, you're still getting gassy and bloated. You drink the juice, but you keep drinking juice, and you're kind of sick of the juices. Maybe you're tired or whatever like that. It's not really working for you for whatever reason. Some people like drinking the juice. They're like, man, I'm tired and hungry, drinking the juice. I feel like I'm drinking so much juice, I'm running to the bathroom. I'm kind of tired of drinking juice. Some people are like that, right? You may need to fast. Fasting is going to be a lot more effective up front. It's going to do what the juice does in part, but in a shorter time frame. Obviously, there is no gastric emptying that is done if you're fasting, so you're not eating anything. But the cool thing about the fasting is, let's say you're very overweight and you're having... The fasting would be very beneficial because basically that brings down your blood sugar. So if your blood sugar is used to being really high, you're very insulin resistant. When you fast, that helps to improve your blood sugar numbers, bring down insulin and blood sugar, and then increase glucagon, which increases the rate of oxidation of glycogen storage in your liver, basically stored sugar in your liver. You reduce the glycogen storage in your liver, and once you empty out your liver, you can start oxidizing the fat stored in your liver and gradually clear out your liver. If you improve the health of your liver, that will translate into positive results for the rest of your intestinal system, for the rest of your gut. Period. A lot of the times people have gut health issues because they have a congested liver. So when you detox your liver with a fast, where you basically allow your liver to just completely empty out all of this excess stuff built up. And the thing is that as the glycogen is broken down in your liver, and as the fat is broken down in your liver, you also release toxins from your liver. So you flush all of that out. And this decongestion of your liver has downstream effects. It leads to a gut decongestion, a liver decongestion, a cellular decongestion, the decongestion of your blood. Because if you're congested, not only is your liver congested, but your blood can be saturated with toxins as well. Your blood could be saturated with fat, saturated with sugar, so basically high fat saturation in your blood is indicated by high cholesterol or high blood lipids. High blood sugar, right? That's an oversaturation of sugar inside your blood. And then all of these toxins that are waste products can also accumulate in your blood, right? And if it gets bad enough, this can result in like jaundice and things like this, right? And the increased rate of oxidation in your liver can turn into like liver cirrhosis, right? Just straight liver disease. And then, of course, it has very negative effects on your kidneys. And if your kidneys are compromised, that reduces the filtration rate of your kidneys. And then you start holding on to more toxins because they don't move out of your body. The toxins don't move out of your body through your kidneys quick enough. Right? So that's why that decongestion of your liver is so important, because it translates into everything. Flushing your blood, liver, kidneys, all that. Your gut, everything. You got to free up your body. So fasting or water fasting is a good way to do that. I don't really recommend dry fasting because it's way too risky. Then there's things that you do during a fast. And during a fast, drinks like water mixed with lime juice and sea salt. Right? So you get those electrolytes up, and then you help boost the metabolic process that happens in your body to help to bring down your blood sugar and use that sugar for energy. So it gives a jolt of mental focus to your brain, balances out your stress hormones in your body, so you're not just completely overridden by cortisol. That's why the salt is so important, the magnesium for the electrolytes. So if you get like, 16, 20 ounces of water, you put magnesium glycinate or magnesium malate in there, you put the lime juice in there, and then you put a pinch of sea salt in there. It's a great drink to have during, right? So you keep the. Then there's your herbal teas. And if you're really trying to improve your gut health, your metabolic health, that type of thing, you really want to ideally have at least 2 to 3 different types of teas a day. So let's say in the morning, you have your cinnamon tea. So you can do like 4 grams, 2 to 4 grams of Ceylon cinnamon for tea in the morning. Right. And the tea is really good for liver health, kidney health, bringing down your blood sugar, blood pressure, that whole thing. Right. Regulating cholesterol and all that type of thing. Right. Cinnamon is extremely high in antioxidants. Really phenomenal stuff. Right. A good midday tea, like in the afternoon or so, would be like fennel tea or basil tea, right? Or nettle tea, something like this. Oregano, these types of things, these kind of herbs is really good teas as well for your gut health. And these herbs are, like cinnamon, antibacterial, antifungal, antiviral, right? So if your gut is being overwhelmed by some sort of pathogen, parasite, whatever the case is, this helps with that. And as your blood sugar comes down and you're flushing out that excess blood sugar saturation, that's not going to be there to feed pathogens in your body. Right? So the teas help to do that. And then, of course, if you add in like something like a pinch of cayenne pepper kills parasites. Okay? So cayenne pepper is phenomenal. If you want to improve oxygen uptake, you want to hydrate your lungs, right? You want to clear out parasites. Cayenne pepper is a big deal for that, right? Eliminate bad bacteria, fungus, etc. Cayenne peppers is one of those, right? You don't need a whole lot, just a pinch. Boom. Right? And then ginger tea or ginger turmeric tea with a pinch of cayenne pepper. Ginger and turmeric are super powerful. I mean, you want to talk about like teas that reduce oxidative stress. I'm talking about like gut pain, joint pain, gets rid of gas, bloating, all of this type of stuff. Phenomenal stuff. Strong, right? So like you can do 1 to 2 grams of ginger, 1 to 2 grams of turmeric, and a pinch of cayenne pepper, right? And hot water for tea, right? Solid. There are some things also that work. For example, peppermint tea. Peppermint tea is soothing for your stomach. Right? It helps your intestines to relax and let go of waste. Right? So it streamlines the gastric emptying process. The gas and the bloating is just a result of something hitting the acids in your stomach, and then bam, the gas coming back up this way. Right? So when you increase gastric emptying, you help to regulate the muscle contractions and movement that line your intestines. You can use teas like ginger or peppermint or something like that to streamline the flow out in one direction, so you don't have this blowback coming back up, right? Like, and the blowback coming back up mainly is like acid reflux, things like this, right? So you want to keep the flow going from top to bottom. That's what you want. You don't want from bottom back up, right? You don't want that. So acid clearance, right? You want to alkalize your body, alkalize your cells, alkalize your gut. So you get all of this acid accumulation. You got to have alkalizing elements come and neutralize that and open you up to really flush that out. Okay. You can do like a fast that lasts for like 72 hours. Which is extremely effective. It's hard, but it's extremely effective. And if your gut is really, really compromised, it could be a really good idea to do that. And you may say, but I don't really want to lose more weight. And that's understandable, right? But however, you're not going to be able to gain weight until you really clear out. Okay? You got issues of Crohn's and colitis, things like this, any kind of IBS. if your gut is really inflamed, you can't just eat more food because you're trying to gain weight. It doesn't really work that way. You got to clear out first. It's like building a building, right? You got a foundation. You need a solid, clean, stable foundation, and then you build on top of that. Your foundation. You don't want to build on top of a congested gut. You want to empty out first. Okay? You can gain the weight on the back end, but you have to free up your gut first. Right? So there's an order of operations there, because you don't want to start eating and get too carried away and you start having the issues again, and then it's hard to eat again. Right? So you could do the fast, and it's not like you're going to starve to death and die or whatever. Right? It's going to be difficult. You know, if you're underweight, it could be difficult. So for the peace of mind, you may not want to do a full 3 days. Maybe you want to break up your fasts a bit. So you could do 24-hour fasts. So let's say you do a 24-hour fast, and then you break your fast with like a soup that's loaded with herbs and spices that are very medicinal, green leafy vegetables, right? And let's say you have these green leafy vegetables and mushrooms for like the extra protein, carbohydrates, things like that, right? And then you have the miso and whatnot in there, right? And that could be a great way to break your fast. It's not really calorically dense, but it's nutrient dense, mineral dense, and then you get the probiotics, right? So you could do that for like a week straight and make your fast a bit easier. And that meal is not going to shoot up your blood sugar and whatnot. And those foods are kind of easy to break down. And the mushrooms, you may not want to eat them raw in this case, right? You want to cook down the mushrooms a bit, right? And so that's what the soup is for. So typically the mushrooms would cook a bit longer than the greens. So you put the mushrooms in first, and then you turn the heat off, and then you add in the greens, the chopped greens, and that type of thing, and then the miso paste, and all of that. So that's one option. You can also do like a fast that you can do at the end of the fast. You do the coconut yogurt. You do a variety of berries. So it's essentially like a berry bowl with coconut yogurt. And then you can add in chia seeds or flax seeds or hemp seeds or something like that. I'm more partial to whole hemp seeds. The whole hemp seeds move through your digestive tract easier. Chia seeds, they can kind of expand and sit on your gut for a little bit longer, so that may be a bit uncomfortable. So if that's the case, you may want to start with something like the whole hemp seeds. Right? Those are a little less fiber rich. It's easier for your gut to break them down and pull nutrients from them. They're hulled, Hulled, right? So that works as well. So you basically can do I want to say 2 or 3 tablespoons of that. You can do like 16 to 20 ounces of a variety of different types of berries, and then your coconut yogurt, boom. You don't want to get like coconut yogurt with like potato starch and things like that added to it. You want very minimal additives to the coconut yogurt if you decide to get one, right? So definitely you want to check the ingredients in the back. Now the ones with the less additives to it will be a bit more watery. It almost be like coconut milk, so to speak, and that's fine, right? Because essentially you can take all of that, and to increase the digestion of it, you take the coconut yogurt and the berries and all of that, and you throw it in a blender, and you can make a smoothie bowl. You break your fast with that. So that works as well. So things like that. And this is the stuff earlier on to really help to decongest and flush out your gut. Right? Coconut yogurt is higher in fats and things like that. And I generally don't recommend like fatty foods. But the thing is, coconut yogurt is not thick and heavy. Right? So even though the saturated fat content is much higher than anything else that I recommend, however, it's a strong probiotic food, so it has that beneficial gut bacteria, right? It's like raw milk without the downside, right? Generally, if you have gut health issues like Crohn's or colitis, you don't want to be consuming dairy. It'll shred your gut, right? You don't want to do that. So all right. As you start to feel better, and you want to take your time, each phase of your strategy, you want to run it for at least. You want to run each phase of your strategy for at least, let's say, 4 weeks. You can have a 12-week cycle. The first 4 weeks, maybe the first 4 weeks, you're doing 24-hour fasts like an OMAD. Second phase, you're doing a 24-hour fast, and the meal at the end, the soup, maybe you add a little bit more like you add like some potatoes to it with the mushrooms and whatnot to give a bit more caloric denseness and get used to having more energy in your diet, right? And then, but it maybe would need to be a bit shorter, right? If you're like really underweight, right? But I'm gonna get to that. And then the final stage is kind of where you're eating more consistently. So let's say you're doing juices all day and then you're having the one meal at the end of the day, right? But it's like a very carbohydrate rich diet. It's very minimal fats. So your fats are still pretty low. And that's also a really good weight loss strategy. If you're really underweight, you'd probably want to condense it a bit more. So you have 1 week where you're doing the 24-hour fast with the soup, the stew, and then you do that full week, and then you pivot to the next evolution in that for another week, and then the next week. So that would probably be like a 3-week window, right? Where you're trying to really detoxify your gut. So there's a lot of different ways to do it, and it varies. It depends on how underweight you are. It depends on how overweight you are. It depends on what your issue is. So that's more of like a really... the things I was talking about just now with the fasting and whatnot, that's for like when your gut health's really bad. You don't want to like have a really conservative approach if your gut is really messed up, because you don't want the process to take longer than it needs to, right? So you really want to prioritize detoxification and flushing out waste, and then you start building on top of that, right? So extreme times call for extreme measures. So that's a thing to really think about. So if you're in a really extreme time, you may need to really lean into the fasting or the juicing, right? The juicing by default takes a little bit longer, but it's a bit of a safer option because at least you're putting energy in, right? However, some people, they have so much toxic stuff going on in their gut that they can't put any sugars in. They can't put any glucose in, right? Because it's just that bad. So then you may need to fast. So it depends on you individually. For the minor gas and the bloating and stuff like that, let's say you have gas and constipation, you don't have like, you don't have Crohn's and colitis and diverticulitis and things like that. Like, you've got some gut health issues, some sensitivities, but it's not like super bad. In that case, you would have either a fully raw approach or a high raw approach, where your diet is, if you're doing the high raw approach where you're having cooked foods, basically you can eat fruits throughout the day and then have your one cooked meal at night. But the majority of your diet wants to be like, let's say a good split would be where your carbohydrate intake is like around anywhere from 80 to 65%. And then the rest, the second highest macronutrient is going to be like fats, and then protein is like around 10-12%, right? So let's say throughout the day, you're having your pineapple, you're having apples, pears, cherries, variety of different berries, grapes, watermelon, things like that. You juice cucumber with apple in the morning, or you're drinking beet juice or something like that in the morning, that kind of thing. And then you have your one meal at night. That's a good strategy as well, right? And then if you can handle it too, you can add in bananas and things like that. Bananas are more of a building food. I wouldn't really say that bananas are like a detox food. I wouldn't say that. Bananas are great if you want to grow. So if you want to gain weight, bananas could be really beneficial for that, right? So like if I'm trying to grow and build more muscle mass, bananas, is a staple for me. And I'm talking about like several pounds of bananas a day. Phenomenal stuff. But if you're trying to detox, not so much. If you're trying to detox, I wouldn't include banana and I wouldn't include foods like banana and avocado. Banana and avocado are building foods. Those are growth foods. Those aren't really like detox foods. You can add in like nuts and seeds. Like pumpkin seed kernels are really good to add into your diet if you have like parasites that you're trying to get out of your gut, because parasites hate pumpkin seed kernels or just pumpkin seeds, right? So the pumpkin seeds, the green leafy vegetables, you know, it depends on the legumes. You can do beans and lentils and things like that, but I would say to start small, maybe like a half a cup to a cup, because like high levels of protein, it depends if you have enough of a compromised gut. The extra sulfur and protein may cause you to be gassy and bloated, so if your gut can't handle it, you don't really want to do all that. So like sweet potato would probably be a better food, or even white rice. Interestingly enough, like white basmati rice is really good on people's guts, right? So in that, you may want to have like some rice or something like that in your soup or your stew or whatever the case is. I don't really recommend rice very much because there are better food choices, but like white rice is, it's hulled. So like the husk is removed. So like brown rice and wild rice, things like that, they're a bit tougher. So the fiber may be an irritant, right? With white rice, not so much. All right, so that's something to keep in mind. Let's catch up with y'all in the comments.